Everyone loves a good story about obedience, right up until they're the one being told what to do. And that's exactly where this story begins. Not with faith, not with heroism, but with avoidance, pure, unadulterated running away. Meet Jonah. He gets a message from God. It's crystal clear, direct, with absolutely no room for interpretation. The message is, go to Nineveh. Now, you need to understand what Nineveh was like. Think of the most chaotic, loud, violent, and intimidating city you can imagine. It's the kind of place you actively avoid, a city you wouldn't visit unless your life depended on it. And for Jonah, it feels like his life depends on asterisk, not asterisk going. He absolutely does not want to go. So, what does Jonah do? He does what any of us might do when faced with something overwhelming, something we're terrified of. He runs. And I don't mean he just has a spiritual crisis. No, this is geographical. He goes to a completely different port, books passage on a boat heading in the total opposite direction, and convinces himself he's just found a clever loophole. Because this is the subtle nature of rebellion. It isn't always loud and defiant. Sometimes it's quiet, it's calculated. Sometimes it even masquerades as self-care or setting boundaries. Jonah boards the ship acting like everything is perfectly normal. He pays his fare, finds a quiet spot down in the hold, and promptly falls asleep. Because let's face it, denial is so much more effective when you're unconscious. He's out of sight, out of mind, problem solved. Or so he thinks. Then the storm hits, and we're not talking about a little drizzle or some inconvenient rain. This is chaos with a purpose. The sky turns black, the waves are like mountains crashing down on the deck. The sailors, these seasoned professionals of the sea, are panicking. They're throwing cargo overboard, desperately trying to lighten the load. They're praying to every god they can remember, a last-ditch effort to find one that might be listening. Through all of this mayhem, someone finally goes down to the hold and finds Jonah, waking him from his deep sleep. And here's the strange part. Jonah wakes up, surrounded by absolute terror, and he's suspiciously calm. That's a funny thing about guilt. When the consequences finally show up, you're often the only one in the room who isn't surprised. The crew is desperate. They decide to cast lots to figure out who's responsible for this divine wrath. It's an ancient form of drawing straws, and guess who gets the short end of the stick? Jonah. Of course, it's Jonah, and at this point, he could lie. He could try to talk his way out of it. But he doesn't. He just tells them the truth. There's no big dramatic speech, no emotional breakdown. It's just resignation. He basically says, yeah, my bad. This one's on me. Now, let's pause here for a second. This isn't a moment of bravery. This is pure exhaustion. Jonah has run as far as he can, and he's just done. He tells the sailors to throw him overboard. Think about that. He doesn't say it because he has a death wish. He says it because he'd rather face the raging sea than go to Nineveh. Drowning seems like the lesser of two evils compared to facing the task he was given. So they do it. They throw him into the sea. And just like that, silence. The wind stops. The waves calm. The storm vanishes in an instant because consequences don't negotiate. The sailors are left in stunned, terrified awe. Their problem is solved, but Jonah's is just beginning. This is where the story gets really weird and incredibly iconic. Instead of drowning, instead of being torn apart by the waves, Jonah gets swallowed. Not symbolically, not as a metaphor. He is literally inhaled by a massive sea creature, a great fish. Imagine the sensory deprivation. It's dark, it's cold. It's loud with the groans and gurgles of this immense creature's insides. There's no Wi-Fi. There are no distractions. There are absolutely no escape routes. For 3 days and 3 nights, it is just Jonah and his thoughts stewing in the belly of a whale. And it's in this place, this ultimate rock bottom, that his rebellion finally runs out of steam. Because running works until you run out of places to go. You can't run from yourself when you're trapped inside a fish. Inside that creature, Jonah doesn't suddenly become some great poet or philosopher. He just becomes honest. He's stripped of his pride, his plans, his escape routes. There are no more speeches, no more bargaining. There is only the raw, brutal clarity of his situation. He finally prays, not a prayer of defiance, but one of surrender. And then, just as abruptly as it all began, it ends. The fish gets its own divine message, and Jonah is ejected back into the world. He's vomited out onto dry land. It's not glorious. It's unceremonious, violent, and probably very messy. But he's alive. He's been given a second chance. This time, Jonah goes to Nineveh. He doesn't argue. He doesn't delay. He walks into that huge, daunting city and says exactly what he was told to say. A simple message of warning. He doesn't embellish it. He doesn't add any flair. He just delivers the lines, probably not caring at all about the results. He's just doing the job so he can be done with it. And then the most unexpected thing happens. The city listens. From the king on his throne to the poorest person in the streets, they all take his message to heart. They repent. The entire city changes its ways, and this absolutely infuriates Jonah. It annoys him more than the storm, more than being swallowed by the fish. Why? Because the real conflict of this story isn't just about disobedience. It's about resentment. Jonah didn't want the people of Nineveh to be saved. He wanted justice, the loud, dramatic, fire and brimstone kind. He wanted to see them get what he thought they deserved. Instead, he got mercy, grace, and that just messes with his entire worldview. Because obedience doesn't always reward your ego. It doesn't always make you the hero of the story. Sometimes, it just proves you were never in control in the first place, and that's a hard pill to swallow. So that's where we leave Jonah, not with a neat little bow on his story. He's alive. He's been changed by his ordeal. But he's still complicated, still wrestling with his own anger and God's mercy. He's sitting on a hill, pouting because things didn't go the way he wanted them to. It's a messy, human, and incredibly relatable ending. Thank you for watching. Next time, we'll dive into a story of rebellion that looks a lot more confident, at least on the surface. We'll talk about power that collapses slowly and a king who ignored every single warning sign until it was too late. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it.